National Fire Radio.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This week, the week of May 29th, rolling into June. Monday is Memorial Day, a day that we reflect, a day that we think of our service members here and abroad, protecting our freedoms and allowing us to do what we do at home. And for that, I am grateful for those that serve and protect my freedom. Thank you. I appreciate all of you, and we'd love to hear from you. Don't be afraid to use the email at podcast@nationalfireradio.com. We'd love to hear from you, especially if you're serving overseas or domestically here within our country, protecting our borders and freedoms. We'd love to hear from you. Please send us an email, podcast@nationalfireradio.com. We'd love to hear from you. Hear where you are and what you do, where you're stationed. I think it'd be great. We'd love to share some of those stories. So don't be afraid to reach out. Anyway, this week, all new episodes by National Fire Radio. Some great heavy hitters, some very powerful episodes will be coming out, as well as a new episode from the Size Up on this Tuesday. So thanks for tuning in. As always, please do me a favor and give our sponsors a quick listen before we roll into the daily episode. This episode's brought to you by Box Alarm Grills. When your apparatus arrives on scene, are you making the best showing? Looking to set your rig apart from everyone else? Want your engine, truck, or rescue to be easily identifiable? There is a solution. With large aluminum grill numbers and full-width rear mud flaps from Box Alarm Grills. Formed by Danny and a team of fellow firefighters, Box Alarm Grills gets it. They know what it means to show pride in your ride, delivering the quality construction and design that fire departments demand. That's why their grill numbers and mud flaps grab attention, enhance visibility, and make your fleet recognizable on scene while responding or just driving around town. Built in the USA by a family-owned business, Box Alarm Grills is quickly becoming the choice of fire companies, apparatus planners, and fire truck manufacturers with out-of-the-box or custom solutions. Check out functional, durable grill numbers and mud flaps from Box Alarm Grills today at boxalarmgrills.com and on Facebook and Instagram. And like Danny and his crew like to say, add pride to your ride. This episode's brought to you by Taylor's Tins. Taylor and his crew at Taylor's Tins have been manufacturing aluminum helmet fronts since 2017. With over 200,000 tins in the market, they are a leader in the helmet front space. Custom design, one-offs to department orders, they can turn them around within 24 to 48 hours. Customer service is what they pride themselves on, and they provide nothing but top-shelf product and service to their customers. Check them out at taylorstins.com and check out their full line of product offering. They've always been a very strong supporter since day one with the National Fire Radio podcast and platform, and Taylor and his crew have become dear friends of ours, and we appreciate the support. And at checkout, for a little extra bonus, use coupon code NFR Sent Me. That's NFR Sent Me for a discount on your order. Exclusions do apply. Anyway, check out taylorstins.com for the latest and greatest offerings from Taylor and his crew. And in the words of Taylor, stop burning up leather.
Working on the feedback. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today. My job tonight is to introduce the panel. My partner, Rob Ridley with National Fire Radio. Rob's going to do some of the interview questions as well. It's always an honor to sit and talk about the job and share the passion with everybody that's here. For you guys that are here, thank you for being here. Pete, thank you for opening your doors at Ragtop. Round of applause for Pete and his crew at Ragtop for the work they do. So, you need a picture or anything? You good?
I was waving to my staff.
All right, that's good.
Staff we were doing
Yeah, because without them, brother.
Listen, without my staff, a round of applause for my staff, really, because they're the ones that put it off.
He's right.
I'm just the pretty face with the nice hair that I'm losing.
So something that's really cool, right, for me is that the mission of Ragtop is very similar to what National Fire Radio is about. It's about preserving the tradition and culture of the fire service. You know, we take pride in the helmets that we wear on the fire ground every single day. It's our personality. It's who we are. It also shows the scars of the jobs that we go to. Pete and his crew here do an incredible job preserving that culture, history, and tradition when it comes to fire helmets. And so they do incredible work. So Pete and his crew have been really good friends of ours, and I appreciate everything that they've done for us, and I appreciate our friendship, Pete. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, real quick, we're going to do quick introductions. I don't have big bios on all of you. I know several of you. I'm just going to go down the list that I have in no particular order. Assistant Chief Justin McCarthy, retired out of New Haven and is now with Greenwich, Connecticut. Chief, welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Lieutenant Robert James, also known as RJ, Capitol Fire Training, Frederick County, Maryland. RJ, thank you. You guys are killing me up there with these mics. That's you, RJ. RJ's on the left up here.
Should I just be the mic girl?
Would you please?
I'll just strip
Pete
down.
Callan, owner and operator of Ragtop Industries, as well as New Haven, Connecticut.
That's correct. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, brother.
You're welcome.
Guys, feel free to liven this place up a little bit, will you? Paul Conway, second from the left. Paul's a staple in the American Fire Service with his helmet shields, his leather work. Paul, welcome. Thank you for being here today. Appreciate you. Right-hand side in that nice color shirt, I'd say that's mauve or something like that, brother. Danny MacAuley out of Boston Fire.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Jay Erban, City of New London, Connecticut. Thank you, brother, for being here today.
Thank you.
And then we have a late arrival. Thankfully, he's wearing clothes that fit him this evening. It's a little inside joke. Ron Smith, Gary, Indiana. Ron, thanks for being here, buddy. Wow, there it is.
He'll be on the swing later.
Training seconds. Training seconds as well. Here. Don't forget that.
Training seconds, absolutely. He is the personality and beautiful face behind training seconds, and that's why they're training seconds and not training minutes. Very good, sir. Thank you. So, gentlemen, thank you for sitting on the panel tonight. I appreciate this. As you know, when we do roundtables, we love to throw softballs to you guys. We'd love to get some insights and feedback. I talked about tradition and culture. The mission of National Fire Radio is very much that, right? We preserve the talk of the job. We preserve it through podcasts and social media content. And we do that so it's here in perpetuity, meaning it's here forever. We capture the stories of the senior man, and we put them out on the contents and channels that matter of today, so those stories are here for generations to come. This job is built on storytelling, right? Embellished or not, it's built on that back bumper, kitchen table talk, and that's super important. So what I'd like to do is talk about that senior man position. I kind of want to roll it out. You guys have all been in the fire service for many years, so I'd love to start the conversation and talking about the importance of the senior man. Departments that lack it, there's a lot of companies that don't have people in those positions, in that informal position, and it's lacking. And so where I'd like to go, well, we have a chief on the panel, so we go right to the chief with that first, and then it trickles down from there. I will say this too, just ground rules for the roundtable. We have 7 guests. Every guest is not gonna be able to hit every topic we talk about. So if you guys have something you want to say, hop on the mic and we'll just continue the conversation. I'd also like to say this too. Anybody sitting here, if you have a question you want to ask, please ask it. Let me know. Grab me, grab Rob, ask the question. We'd love to hear your question because nobody wants to hear me talk. So Chief, senior man in the fire service, the importance of it, and what can you tell me about it in your personal experience?
Yeah, so I'll tell a quick anecdote. The first senior man I ever had walked in the firehouse wearing boat shoes, got dropped off by a taxi, and was wearing a Steelers jersey. So it's not necessarily always the guy with the most amount of time on the job. So that's first and foremost. I think with the senior man position, senior firefighter position, is somebody who actually genuinely cares, knows the firehouse, knows the apparatus, knows the equipment, knows what to expect, right? And they're the one who's going to guide the ship. Nothing should go to the officer unless it really has to. And I can tell you right now, if it gets to the chief's office and it doesn't belong there, it's more frustrating that it got there. So as a chief, I get more and more frustrated about things that make it to my office that don't belong there, and they should be settled by the senior person telling the crew what's reality and what's not, and what should be important and what isn't. So I'll defer to Jeremy to dictate who goes next, or to Pete.
So I'll jump in here. So recently, so I've been on New Haven. I'm going into my 10th year, 9 complete 10th year. Time flies. So if you guys are just getting on a job or want to get on a job, time flies. I spent about 90% of my career in special operations company, Squad 2, Rescue 1 earlier this year. I was transferred off Rescue 1. I was transferred to Engine 9. Engine 9's a single-engine house with a chief in there. And so I went from a world of almost my entire career of operating in a special operations atmosphere on a squad, on a rescue company with a whole set of roles and responsibilities where we have, without a doubt, in my career, so this is my 23rd year in the fire service between the military, City of New Haven, on volunteering. So, I've seen a lot of senior guys, come and go during that time. And with Rescue 1 in New Haven has without a doubt, one of the best senior guys I've ever seen in my life, Mark Gianelli. And he's been a good friend to me before I got on the job and as well as on the job. So he was the senior guy, and he runs Rescue 1, and he's the senior guy. So when I got transferred to Engine 9, there's a lot of young people assigned there, and I found out that I'm actually the senior private in the entire firehouse. So it's changed roles and responsibilities. So throughout your career, a lot of your roles and responsibilities, can change. You're working in one environment one day, and then the next environment, you find out you're the senior private in the entire firehouse, and you have a whole bunch of young guys that are assigned. So now you're looking at training, you're looking at firehouse conduct, you're looking at all those things, and your eyes change. So it's one of those things as you go throughout your career, you may find yourself in situations you didn't expect. A lot of times, like the chief said, it's not always the guy with the most time on the job that's a leader in your department, but focusing on the well running of the firehouse is what makes you a senior man and what makes you important to the cog that is the fire service. So that's just my 2 cents. That's all I got.
Like 7 cents.
7 cents?
Yeah, it was like 7 cents, Peter.
Listen, if you know me, and all you guys on this panel know me, I like to talk.
Take that, thanks.
I think there's a big difference between a senior man who wants to train and educate the people that work with him or her and invest in the department and make it better, or some recliner magnet who's just going to sit there and watch the same episode of Law and Order at 1 o'clock every day because that's what he wants to just occupy space. There's a big difference between this. So necessarily having 28 or 29 years on the job at Backstep is a true thing, and I value that person that puts the time in and wants to be the senior man or the senior person and work to make that department better. But there are people out there that would between the 7 to 15 year range, and that is the senior aspect of our fire service right now, is the people that have anywhere from 7 to 15 years because there's so much turnover. So you don't necessarily have to look to that person with 30 years. Look for that person between 7 to 15 years that's taking classes, that's out there working, that's trying to make it better, that's making sure that the hose loads in the truck are well done, the housework is done, that's doing their job, and just has a great attitude. And that's who you should be looking at, not necessarily the person that's just been there for decades because they're there for decades. And that's just me.
Got something there, big man?
All right. So up until 2021, I got promoted to lieutenant in 2021. I was the senior man, Squad 3 in Frederick. And I was talking to Chief Conway last night. We was talking about some of the roles as a senior man. And one of the biggest things is not only for me, my role was being in charge of the firehouse and making sure nothing got to the captain. But for me, my role was to make sure things were taken care of outside of the firehouse. When you're a senior guy, you need to make sure your guys are taken care of outside of the firehouse. I was very big in keeping up with the guys' lives, and making sure that they're, especially the young kids coming on the job, making sure their rookie books are done, answering questions they have about the job. I would take guys out on their days off, go learn the streets, that kind of stuff. So it's not just in the firehouse, it's outside of the firehouse too. And just making sure you have the bandwidth to take care of the people. Essentially, my department is it's about 560-something people on the floor. And our department's getting younger and younger. So now we have people coming on the job who are essentially going to fall into the senior man roles, and they only have 4 years on the job. So the biggest thing that we can do as senior guys and senior leaders in our department is to make sure we're teaching them the right things, teaching them what they need to know, and teaching them how to be able to make decisions without, like Chief McCarthy said, without having to go to the boss. It was one of my rules, a house rule. If there was an issue, it came to me first. I addressed it, and we made it happen. You got a guy show up late, we make it happen before it gets to the boss. Make sure the spot's covered, make sure everybody's on the same page. It's a huge, huge honor. But I'll be honest with you, in my department, just as much as you have the time on the job, if you don't have the respect and the responsibility, you just don't get the title senior man. You have to do all the little things in order to have that respect. You have to take care of the people. You have to take care of the house. You have to take care of the rigs. Just because you got 15 years on the job and you essentially fall into the senior role, it can be stripped. Your title can be stripped of you just as fast. So that's.
What if I'm in a firehouse that doesn't allow senior guys? What if I have bosses that are micromanaging the shit out of everything I do? I have bosses that aren't confident in their skills and abilities. They take it out on me.
So it's funny you say that, man. Back when I was fairly younger, I had a boss that micromanaged everything. And as a young guy on the job, I couldn't question him because I was new. That wasn't my role. But my biggest thing that I did was I let my performance speak on the street. All right, you can question me in the firehouse. You can micromanage me about fucking mopping the floors, everything like that, right? But when we go on the calls, like my performance is gonna show you that I don't need to be micromanaged, right? You're gonna tell me, hey, you want a job done? I'm gonna get the job done. You know what I mean? You're gonna tell me, hey, stretch a line to the second floor. I'm gonna get the line to the second floor. You're not gonna realize that I had to jump over 3 fences. I had to go through this, that. I got chased by a dog around the corner, right? The job was to get to the second floor, right? And so at the end of the day, you know, when you perform that way and your performance speaks louder than your mouth, it'll say a lot. And then you kind of have, and at least I can't say I worked for many bosses that were micromanagers, but I had one. And I think the more I showed myself on the street, the more I showed my skill level and the more I showed that I cared and I was into it, he kind of backed up off me a little bit. And then I became the guy he relied on. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say that's the answer for everybody. And sometimes you just might have micromanagers, you know what I mean? And I don't really have a lot of answers for that. I dealt with one, and that's how I came across it. So hopefully that helps.
Over here, hold on. He's got a little something.
I got something on the micromanager, Jeremy. I want to talk about that real quick. So I take great pride in trying to not micromanage, and every single micromanager that I've called out didn't know they were a micromanager. It's a psychological thing, and I think that's where the senior man needs to step up to the plate, stop being a coward, go up to the officer and say, hey, bro, leave us alone. All right, we got it. We haven't failed you yet. We haven't done anything to prove to you that we're incompetent, that we don't know what we're doing, that the housework's not getting done, right? Everything's getting done around the firehouse. Everything's being checked, and when we go to a call, we perform. So knock it off, stand back. Like, that's a private conversation you have behind closed doors, but that's where the senior man needs to come in, all right, and needs to step up to the plate. And you know what? A lot of people, whether it's in this room, whether it's watching, whether it's listening, whatever it is, they're more than happy to crawl down a dark hallway, but they're scared to death to go in the office and have a one-on-one conversation.
Ron, you can only speak in seconds, Ron.
Yeah. I don't think that's helping.
3 mics.
So step up, be the senior man. That's it. No, I'm kidding. Listen. What is the deal with this PA? Who's the sound guy? That's fine. Yeah. Next year. So on my job, seniority is a lot. I call it the participation trophy. There's a lot of guys that hang around for a long time because of brownouts and closures and things. That's such weird feedback. There's a lot of guys that show up. So I don't give that away to just anybody. That, you know, it's not necessarily the senior guy in the house. It's the guy that's doing stuff. And so being able to step up, and because seniority is so big in my job, it's hard to get promoted. Hold this for a second. I think this might help. I used to do this in the band. So that informal promotion of the senior man kind of boosts his confidence, and I think that drives it. I think that me trusting that guy to get that job done is a consolation prize to not being able to get promoted. Because on my job, 20 years you're not going to get promoted to lieutenant in 20 years. It's just not going to happen.
We got a lot of people here we're talking about the senior man, but we got a lot of potential junior mans in front of us. For you guys, what's the junior firefighter need to do to succeed in that first year when they're making that impression? So we hit that senior man, but let's talk about that junior firefighter who's coming in and they're trying to make the impression. What are some back pocket skills that they can bring to the table?
So I think that's probably me. I'm at that 12-year mark now, kind of like the middle guy. But like what he said, one of the biggest things is going to the officer. Even if I'm not the senior man, I don't mind going into the office and saying to the boss, hey, we want to do this. Hey, we'd like to do this. The guys want to do this. I don't mind that at all. But you have to keep up with the guys. That middle guy position is probably one of the most important. That and the senior man, the two will make and break that firehouse and that company. For me, like when I go in, I make sure all the guys are good. I make sure the equipment's good. I'm even making sure the piece is good, even if I'm not driving. Take a look around, like what's going on? Is something out of order? Keep in contact with those guys too. Like how are they doing? Like RJ said, like is their time off the job, is that going well? That's going to affect them on the fire floor. So talking to them about that, talking to them about the day, what they want to do, what they want to train on. Hey, did you see that? Bring things up. You see a lot of drills on Facebook and Instagram and things like that. It doesn't have to be stretching 400 feet of line and throwing 12 ladders and, you're spent for the rest of the day. This could be a 2-minute, 5-minute conversation at the kitchen table. It's just talking about something. Hey, if we went to this, what do you think? What would you do? Get their opinion. Go around the room. Just have that conversation. But that's huge. It's just staying in contact. If the guys notice something, hey, this is off, or this equipment's screwed up, then I take it upon myself. My piece is pristine. We get like a scratch on the piece, and I'm like, who did it? I'm looking around, who worked last night? It is what it is. But it's my job to make sure that, I'm conversating with the senior man and also with the boss. I don't mind that, trying to keep that ball rolling and making sure we're on the right page.
So for the junior people or potential junior people, one day you'll be on the job. I tell my kids, and this is training seconds worthy, I tell my kids, never pass a problem you can fix. And if you're a rookie, you should never, if you see a piece of paper, you see something out of place, see something that's dirty, see some dishes, fix it.
It's interesting coming from a different generation and seeing a new generation of firefighters coming in and the difference between the generations and how we learn and all that, and I understand it completely. We were taught differently, people are taught differently. I guess the one thing I can pass on is never be told something twice, because then you develop a pattern, and if we have to break you out of that pattern, that slows down our training process. You're entitled to make mistakes, you're entitled to learn. That's how we all do it. We all made mistakes and we move forward. So if you're on the fire ground and you do something that needs to be corrected and we have a teaching moment from it, we correct it and we move on it. If it happens again, then it's a problem. Then we have to retrain and redo things. So not being told the same thing twice, that's the best thing I can tell someone that's just starting out. You can buy anything you want. You can get your leather helmet, get your straps, buy all this stuff.
Get your helmet
Get
at
yourself
Ragtop.
all decked
Get your
out at
helmet at Ragtop.
Ragtop.
Just throw it.
I mean, honestly,
Ragtop.
I don't
Right next
care.
door.
Watch your YouTube videos, do all the things, follow everybody on social media, do all that stuff that makes you happy. Fine. I love it. Training seconds. Watch so many training seconds it turns into training weeks. I don't care. Great. But just don't be told the same thing twice. And that's it. And I think that's just simple.
I think as a junior firefighter, I look back when I started and now looking back at what social media has is you have to find that person in your firehouse or on your shift who's you're gonna gravitate to, who's gonna mentor to you. So you, like you said, there's a lot on social media about, I can throw a 35 foot by myself 4 times a week and I can stretch, 7 lines a day on my shift. But what department SOGs and department policies and procedures do you need to know to perform your job? And as a junior firefighter, you don't know those going in. So what firefighter, what officer is gonna direct you to those and is gonna mentor you in that respect? And I think that's kind of huge, is looking at what your department does and why they do it. I think I've asked him, Chief McCarthy here, 100 different questions about why New Haven does things the way they do. And that was kind of the one thing he taught me was before you question something, find out why it's done the way it's done before you do that. So you have to find that person that's going to be able to answer those questions for you before you decide to move on and make your own opinion about the way your department does something.
Paul, what was it like for you as a probationary firefighter? Well, yeah, for you, like when you were that junior man, when you were that probationary
I was
firefighter.
listening to him, and I just.
No, it's all right. Pete's very. Yeah.
So, my suggestion, first off, is to be an apprentice in your craft. And what does that mean? It means that you spend the time that you can, and obviously, if you have family, you're a husband, a father, or a mother for that matter, whatever. But spend time in your craft. Keep your mouth quiet, your ears open, and learn everything you can. And that means beyond the job. You know, that means beyond your firehouse, beyond your fire department. Get out in the world and see what's going on. Take in some other classes, learn from some other people. I think over the years, we were discussing this earlier, that I took a class a long time ago with this lieutenant. I think his name was John Norman, and he was teaching out in Long Island.
I think his name was John Norman.
And I remember sitting in a truck company in the Bronx one day when I was visiting, listening to this lieutenant by the name of Bob Morris, who we were passing on tactics between how the city of Milwaukee operates their ladder companies and how the city of New York operates theirs. And the point is that both of us gained information that day. And there was a guy that obviously we know that, you know, Bob went on to be who Bob is. And but at that moment, two people were exchanging information from two different environments. As far as, you know, I know that, and I know there's New York City guys here, a lot of them think that life doesn't exist past the Hudson River, but it really does. And but we learned something. We both learned something. So continually educate yourself and continually learn and continually grasp for every little thing you can, because what I see is some folks want to be the senior person. They want to be that person. But they have no grasp or understanding of what it took to become that person. And if you drill down and you look at that senior firefighter, you will learn that that person never, ever, ever stopped learning. So again, sum it up, mouth shut, ears open, listen to what people tell you, ask why. But I also think that for the senior people, we have to understand that the firefighters that we have today, and now I've been out 10 years, so that makes it even more so, they learn different than I did. They really do. So you have to get into their world too and understand how they learn, so that you're not leaving them behind and saying, that kid doesn't know anything, that kid doesn't do this or do that. Well, no, that's because we didn't change. We didn't adapt to the world they're in. They're still the same good people. We just have to be able to teach them at a level they understand. So there it is.
I got to piggyback on Paul on this one. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it, but there's an article that was written. It was by a fire chief. It talked about how the young generation didn't want to work hard. They didn't step up to the plate. They didn't want to take the extra hours. They didn't want to, learn the new tactics. They didn't want to. It basically, if you read the article, it was what everybody says today, right? And it was written in 1928, right? So when every single person on this group started, everybody talked crap about you. They talked crap about your generation. They said you weren't going to be good enough. They said you weren't going to do it. And then now it's completely flip-flop. My father's generation's out, and they talk trash about me. Now I've moved up. Now I talk trash about the younger generation. It's pretty much how it goes. But at the same time, you can't forget that.
And the fires are still going out, so.
There's not one still burning yet. Well, maybe, yeah, it's just that one. But none of them in Greenwich or New Haven. That's all I care about.
For everybody else who's up here, what's your, just for softball, what's your coveted position in the firehouse? Oh, boy.
Captain of the squad. Where I'm at, I love it. I love it. I spent my whole career trying to get where I'm at. That's where I'm at, and I love it. I love my crew.
Why?
Because we go to jobs, bro. We go to jobs. Yeah. We freelance until the fire goes out.
Being in position is for probies. Freelancing's where it's at.
Yes, I have a copyright on that. Freelance until the fire goes out. Until extinguishment and return. That's all I got.
Best spot for me in the fire ground was lieutenant of the heavy rescue. I get it. Engine is the backbone of the fire department. I will say it till the day I die. The engine is the backstep of the fire. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it takes a lot of effort to stand on top of the fire. Yes, I get it. To be there, yes. Oh, yes, I know. Swinging axes, throwing ladders, I get it. The red top on the helmets, I mean, yes, I bless you. Yes, you do the Lord's work, yes. But to me, like, being in a position where you can just be there to help out when the others need a little bit of assistance to get their job done. And that's it. Just being put in a position to fill gaps, to make sure that things be done, and to be counted on when questions need to be, hey, we need a little help with this, and that's it. Other than that, just let the people just do their job, because they're all competent in doing their job. That's, to me, that was the best spot.
Jay, you know what you said that I really like?
Yeah, go ahead.
Really like, because it goes to mindset, right? Being a boss of a special hazards, I think,
Yeah.
right?
Hazards, yes. You got to say it like I do. Hazards, yes. Yes. Great, hazards, yeah.
But the thing is, though, in those positions, it's that mindset of being on the fire ground and being 5 steps forward. I think it's really interesting, right? Because I don't think we teach that cognizant mindset on the fire ground, that we want all of our people to be in positions 2 steps ahead of where they need to be, right?
And I think that comes with specialized training. Like when you start doing technical rescue training and do like special ops training, it teaches people to think on their own, and it teaches them to critically think. So if you can tell someone, if you teach technical rescue and you get your people involved in like whatever technical aspect it is, and you tell them, hey, I need you to go over and do this discipline and do it by yourself, do it, and then walk away from it. When you get them on the fire ground, you say, hey, I need you to just take a walk around the back of the building, give me a size up to see what's going on, and just let me know if we need to be back there or not. And you get them to critically think, work on their own, they're not micromanaged, and they learn to develop, because someday the people under your command, you're not going to be there, and they're going to get jammed up. And they're going to be in a position where they're going to be by themselves, they're going to get injured, hurt, or in a mayday, and they have to think for themselves to get themselves out of the situation they're in. And if you don't set your people up to think for themselves and to help themselves, you're failing them.
Well, think about it this way, right? Every young guy that's sitting in this room is going through the academy, and they're taught 2-man search. Two-man ladder.
Yeah, I know, nuts to butts, I get it, yep, hands up, yeah.
Stretch, right?
Yeah.
Stretching that inch and 3/4, but it's a 3-man engine, right? So my point is, though, for the guys that are sitting here looking around this room and looking at the age that are sitting at most of these tables, it's allowing them to do independent work is super important. We don't talk about that enough in the fire service. We sugarcoat the shit out of everything. We say, like, 2 in, 2 out, 2 guys do this, 2 guys do that, when in fact, reality usually does not allow 2 guys to do anything together.
No, I've been a junior varsity fireman my whole life. I've been on 3-person engine companies, 2-person truck companies, 3-person heavy rescues, a medium-sized department. I've been a JV fireman my whole life. We get the job done, and everyone here works on a suburban fire department, and they all do more with less, and that's what we should be focusing on. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to set your people up to think by themselves, because you're going to operate alone.
Danny, I saw you want to jump in. RJ, I want to hear you too on this one.
First, I just want to say, there is 2 guys in a truck. You can teach that class. That can be done with 2 guys. Just saying. Just saying.
Shameless plug for Dan's class, everybody. Everybody sign up for Dan's class.
The name's changed, don't worry. I think he brings up a great point. I mean, you know, what happens in the academy? You brought up search. It's made its rounds on social media, the human centipede, you know, doing the search. That's still being taught in the academy right now. Like, as we speak, there is academies teaching multiple people to go in nuts to butts, literally just staring at the person in front of them. That's being taught right now. So trying to get out of that.
Try to point it this way. If you point it this way, maybe. No. I don't know what to do. It's only me and Dan.
I know. Okay.
That might be it.
Maybe if we were over there, maybe we can move it down.
All right, nuts to butts, human centipede.
But we got to break that. We got to get out of that. Like Jay said, you know, like you have to make people think. Like they can't go back to that basic academy training and think that they're going to get everywhere on the fire ground with that training. It's not going to happen. The first time something happens, they're going to be clueless. They're going to be looking around, looking for either that middleman, that senior man, that boss. Like, now what? You know, like we weren't taught this in the fire academy. So we have to break that. But to what he said, 100%. I mean, making your people think, get that critical thinking, they can make decisions on their own, 100%.
All right, so I would say up until I got promoted, I'd be in line with everybody up here on this panel. And my view is going to be completely different than everybody up here. And they're all my friends. So I think the most infectious position in the firehouse or in the fire ground is the role that I'm in now, which is the detail officer. I'm a rescue guy, and if you know me, I'm a rescue guy. I'm a big rescue guy. I live rescue shit. I study rescue shit. I'm in special ops. But since I got promoted, I became a float boss, and I float to different houses every tour. I think that the biggest impact is a person like me who covers a different company, and I can help so many people every time I go to work in different roles. And I have learned myself how to be a better firefighter. I realized for the last 8 years prior to me getting promoted, I was assigned to a rescue company, and I realized how much stuff I forgot because I wasn't doing the run-of-the-mill basic stuff. I wasn't stretching lines. I wasn't running the electrical orders, that kind of stuff. But now that I'm in a float role, I run this shift. I'm back at the rescue. Next tour, I'm on a truck. Next tour after that, I'm on the engine. And maybe the next 3 tours, I'm on the engine, and I'm back to, so I float around. I think that as a detail boss, I can spread so much positive stuff about the fire service to people who want to learn. And every tour I go to work, it's a new place. And at that new place, I get to help a new group of people. And I can look across the room, I can find the senior guy out of the group, and I can see that of the 5 people that I'm working with for the tour, 4 of them have like 2 years on a job. And they all want to be good and they all want to be better at something. And I can help that group of 5. Then the next tour, it's on to the next place. And then the next place, I pretty much can help a whole new group of people all over again. And I just literally bounce around from spot to spot and just infect people with positivity of the fire service that, like, you guys are all here, like we are all here to be better about. I can infect that with people as I spread around working in different battalions. Do I want to have a home? Absolutely. But I don't want to just have a home with people who don't want to work, right? I'd rather have a good home where I wait and earn my spot back into that spot. And until that such time, I just keep going around and just helping people and be better at the job. And just like everybody up here, we have a passion for the job, just like all of you guys, right? All of you guys that are here right now are here because you have a passion for the job. Like, you're here because you wanted to learn something, or you wanted to see somebody, or you wanted to meet somebody, or you wanted to get something at one of these tables that you can take back to your job and put in your pocket or put on your head or whatever, or even you bought something for somebody else that's on your crew. A bunch of people came up to the table, bought stuff for other guys. So just as much as you guys are doing that, I'm doing the same thing in my department. We're bringing back positivity. We're infecting people with positivity because we care that much. And I'll be honest with you, up until 2021, I would say that the detail boss, the guy who's going around spreading the positivity, spreading the infecting people with passion for the job, that's the most important role. And all these guys, I was a rescue guy, you know what I mean? All these guys are rescue guys, truck guys, engine guys. But I think the guy who can move around and spread that knowledge to other people, I think that's the most important part.
As far as the best position, Tillerman. Hands down.
Amen. Yeah. Don't drop that microphone. It's expensive.
Best spot I ever had.
We're all out down here.
Yeah. So, but I do want to bring up the point, though, that if our training academies, and I've been blessed, the city of Milwaukee ran heavy. We had personnel. We weren't New York City, but we had, 4 or 5 on a company. We had all of those things. But if our academies are teaching A, and then they get in the street and they have to learn B, then as a system, we're letting down people who are coming into our career. Because we are giving them an opportunity to say, I asked you a minute ago to become, to get to the point of being a journeyman, to be an apprentice. And if all of your apprenticeship is something you're never going to use because you have to work in a department, the communities around the city of Milwaukee run 3. All this, it's not like it's something new. But if we're not going to train them as they're going to operate, then we are failing them as young firefighters, plain and simple. And we need to look at that. I was blessed to retire the chief operations, and if that was the case, if my academy was not teaching what's taught in the street, I would be with the chief of the school and ask him, why is this happening? And I understand that the states have standards. We had to test to the state standard, but we also, our academy was 16 weeks long, so we spent our time teaching them, this is how we roll on the street, and this is what we do. And these are the different positions from the chauffeur to the officer to so on and so forth. So, because we were distinct with riding positions, arrival assignments, all those other things. But if we're not doing that, and we're not doing it as leaders, then we're letting down the people who we expect to become the future leaders of the fire service. So that has to if that is the case, that has to get fixed. Plain and simple, it's got to get fixed.
Are you looking for new forcible entry tools, seatbelt cutters, pouches, bags, screwdrivers, or even hose straps? Then head over to our friends at Modus Fire Rescue. They just might have what you're looking for. They are best known for their tool, the Snagger, but currently they have more than 25 products on their site, with more being added monthly. Also, while you're there, use code THESIZEUP, one word, to save 5% off your order.
Everyone up here has been in that low manpower situation. As Jay said, he's been on the JV team his whole career. How do we prepare for that low manpower effectiveness? Because I know myself, I've struggled with this in my own job. There's no book that says how to operate with 4 firefighters at a house fire, and like they don't teach that in IFSTA or any other 4-letter word training manual. So what do we do to prepare for that?
All right, so full disclosure, I came from a department before I went to New Haven that ran a 6-man shift, and McMansions everywhere. The department I'm on now runs 3-man engines with volunteer combination setup. To piggyback on real quick, everybody always says the worst thing you could say is we've always done it that way. The worst thing you could say is forget everything you learned in the academy, which is what we say to every single person who walks through the door after they're done at the academy, which is the dumbest thing that the fire department does. All right? But as far as being in a smaller department, the one thing that I will say, at least in Connecticut, I don't know how this is in other places. I mean, I'll hand it to RJ and Paul to kind of back it up. But we've gotten a lot better with mutual aid because the volunteers are struggling, right? I mean, that's a nationwide problem. People are having trouble keeping up with the requirements of the volunteers. And it's just something that we're facing. We're handing a bunch of people a book and telling them they need to study up on hazmat when they might go on one hazmat in their career, and they're not focused on basic things and perfecting the craft of what they're doing every day, right? We're focused on making sure that you can identify tetrachlorine on a rail car when there's no rail coming through your town, but we're not going over how to go over a basic call in a house looking for an odor of smoke, right? I mean, most of these people aren't coming into the fire service coming out of a trade anymore, so they don't understand how a furnace works. They don't understand how an HVAC unit works. They don't understand how an elevator works, but we're over here hammering 6 weeks of hazmat. It's the dumbest thing that we could possibly do. We're not realistic. We don't keep up with the times. We're constantly hammering. I mean, I took a 1072 hazmat class that went over chlorine cars. We haven't had a chlorine car in Connecticut in 10 years. right? But we don't touch on mercury. We don't touch on the things that we're going through every single day. There's not a thing on white powder, but we still go on them. Not in lithium. What'd you say? Lithium ion. I mean, hazmat's not even touching that yet, but we're still going over chlorine cars, right? We are not keeping up with things, and then we're asking volunteers and new guys coming into the fire service to perfect these advanced level things when they don't even know how to discover what's causing the smoke in the house and how to identify what an HVAC unit looks like. I had a person, as a rookie, while I was a lieutenant, walk into a room with a furnace, look at me and say, which thing's the furnace? I mean, let's be real. That's what's going on now in the fire service. And then we're turning around and expecting volunteers to walk in the door and keep up on every single certification that they're not using every single day. Why do you think that it's failing? Right? That's why it's failing. We have people that want to come, they want to operate, they want to be helpful. Put them to use. It doesn't mean they have to be on the front line fighting the fire in the IDLH atmosphere, but let's encourage people here. All right? Let's give them something to do. And that goes for all the rookies that are walking in the door right now. Let's show them what we actually do in the street and stop lying to them in these fire academies and these classes all over the world that are telling them everything's going to be okay, and then when you get there, they're completely confused and they fail constantly, not knowing that they're not doing a good job. And then what do the senior guys do? They complain about them. It's a problem.
I'm sitting here watching heads shake in agreement with you, which is awesome to sit in the back of the room and to watch that. Right? You hit on a lot of great things right there, and I think that is a real disconnect in where we are today. Right? I agree with you 100%. Right? We can't fault a kid that doesn't know how to start a saw, start a lawnmower, or what the furnace is if they didn't grow up learning that. And we have to, as a society, as a fire department, as a fire service, understand there's a difference of today versus yesterday. And we can't vilify that, but recognize that and work with it. Right? Because we need, when I leave, and you leave, and the rest of this panel leaves, and the guys who 20 plus years leave, all we have are the guys coming up behind us. And so we have to work harder now more than ever to educate. But that's okay. But it takes the senior guys, the guys with 10, 15, 20 years to buy into those kids and allow them to flourish underneath us. It takes fucking work.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely takes work, and I'll tell you right now, I have a big problem with anything that is an acronym in the fire service. Agencies that are an acronym are a problem.
So I can honestly say that we moved forward in Indiana when we adopted the fire engineering curriculum. We got rid of IFSA. We stopped having that problem. There's also a loophole in our system that allows the authority having jurisdiction to dictate curriculum. So we're forming our own engine manual, our own truck manual, and we will teach our academy only that. I keep trying. My current mission in Indiana is to do away with the need for firefighter 2. I have never, ever in my life turned to a rookie and say, hey, do you know how to operate this system? Or, hey, can you help me with this radio? I don't understand comms. I've never had that. What I want them to do is stretch lines and throw ladders. When I was in the academy, every day, I don't care what we were doing. I don't care if we were doing bandaging and splinting. They threw a ladder, they did a little bit of a surge, and they stretched hose every day. And you can do it. It doesn't cost anything. It takes a minute.
Couple seconds, baby. It is. It never gets old. Train in your operational reality. I think that's the aspect, like Chief McCarthy was saying. Like, train your operational reality. Like, I get it. I like to take classes. I see all these classes. I teach throughout the country. I see people taking classes, and people, you trend to migrate towards these classes taught by people who work for big city jobs, and they have 6-person truck companies and 6-person engine companies. And you're learning how to do a stretch with 4 to 5 people, or 3 people to the outside team, 3 people the inside team. And the same guy's going back to his firehouse, and he cross-staffs a quint in a medic unit. And he's looking at both of them going, well, how am I going to do what I just learned? So don't lose the fire or the passion for training, but work towards something that's going to benefit you in your job, and seek out those classes that's going to make you better. And, like, don't get your hopes up like you're going to come back to work and try and
convince other people you work with, yeah, we're going to be the outside vent, and we're going to be the irons, and we're going to be roof, but it's all one guy that's got to do all the same 3 tasks because you work on a 2-person truck. So make your expectations your reality. I mean, you're going to work and make the place the best that it is, but you know, like Chief McCarthy said, if you don't have hazmat in your community, spend time learning how to stretch lines and learning how to work in 1.5-story dwellings, or, you know, don't spend time learning how to pick off a window washer when you don't have anybody washing windows in your community. I mean, just honestly, I've never seen one. I mean, why are we learning to rescue? Whatever, I'm not going to rant, but why are we? The NFPA is ruining the fire service, but why are we, you know, train within your reality? I guess that's it. Sorry.
Right. Well, I think, too, I just had a conversation with a chief officer on my job the other day, and I said, you know, when I thought my career track was going to, my goal when I got hired in New Haven was I wanted to go to the training school. That was where I wanted to go. My business has had other ideas, so I didn't end up going that route. But I said, you know, why aren't we, you know, we should be creating a PowerPoint on building construction when they hit building construction in that block, using those manuals of pictures of New Haven building construction, of houses in the city of New Haven. We have an entire section of Dwight Street in the city that's post and beam construction. I mean, that's a kind of an anomaly, you know, in the area where we have a whole dedicated section, and the fires react very differently to that. So saying that if you're running a dedicated academy where it's a city academy, you know, start using, you know, replace those pictures and those PowerPoints with pictures from your own city. If, you know, you send your people to a regional fire academy, or you're a volunteer and you're doing firefighter 1, firefighter 2, you know, create those PowerPoints within your own department, within your own firehouse, to say, hey, look, this is the building construction that we have. You're going over this in fire 1, fire 2. You're going this and over this in the fire academy. Well, here's pictures of what you have in your area, and you can kind of parallel what you actually have to that information. So they're a little bit more prepared in the street when they say, oh, I've seen that building before, you know, and it was brought up in a PowerPoint. So just one of those things, you can kind of correlate that.
Got something from the audience here.
All right, so quick thing. So on my way down here, I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine, firefighter Dan Rinaldi. Most people know who Dan Rinaldi is, senior private in Providence, been on special hazards for 32 years, mentor of mine. So he texted me, he asked me a question, not related to this, but I think it'd be good for the panel. So he texted me, he said, hey, brother, I have a quick question for you. Do you feel like the art of using the deck gun has been lost? You check out fires in New Haven, similar cities to that in Northeast. Why aren't we using the deck gun more? And I had an answer to him, and I'd just like to see what some of you have, because he's looking to write an article on it, and I think it'd be really good as a discussion point, because I think we have gotten away from the use of the deck gun because people are afraid to be labeled a coward and not just do what's supposed to be done and not be a pussy. But yes, and Chief McCarthy, I'm sure, can tell you a fire that in my head that I'm thinking of on Winchester Avenue. So I'd like to get the panel's opinion so I can go back to Dan and say, hey, all these gentlemen agree with you. So I'm just looking to see some of your guys' opinions so I can go back to Dan. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is coming from a truck guy, but I work in the city of Boston. I can actually say that we're seeing guys use the deck gun more and more, and correctly, not incorrectly. So if that helps his question a little bit, you're seeing guys make those decisions, that critical thinking, like, hey, you know what, maybe the deck gun, it doesn't have to, we don't have to put thousands of gallons of water through a window with the deck gun. It could be to protect an exposure. It could be a quick hit to stop it from going somewhere else. Could be a quick hit on a porch. You got front porches going, 3 floors. It doesn't have to be this long duration deck gun event. We carry the ball valve up top, so no one has to worry about it. He can charge that, get up there, open and close it as need be. So if that helps him at all, I'm seeing us use it correctly and more often.
So I'll jump in, and I'll say what it is, at least what I think it is. It's piss poor training. So I think that a lot of people don't train on it, to be honest with you. And I can tell you, coming from a department, and I don't think that my department's not aggressive, to be honest with you. But we train on it. And each company trains on their use of attack with it. I can tell you right now, there's a company 31 in my department. Those guys are sharp with the deck gun. They've made hella stops on the Rockin' Townhouse fires, all because of their tactics. And I'll tell you what the secret is. It's not a secret. I'll tell you what it is. They do what they call a blitz attack. the driver will get off the rig, and the crews will stretch a line, and the driver will charge the deck gun. They put a gate on the top. He'll pull the lever at the panel. He'll climb up top, open up the gate, and he will put the deck gun in the position where it needs to be while the crew is stretching the line. And while the crew's stretching the line and getting in place, he's already putting a hella knock on a rocket townhouse fire. So it's not that we're not being aggressive. We're still putting the line where we need to be, but now we've provided a better means for people, especially in townhouses, garden apartments, that type of thing. We have now put a knock on a rocking fire where people can now make the hallway and get outside or get to the outside of the structure. In the meantime, while you have a driver doing that, you have a crew stretching the line, you have an officer leading the crew, and you have people getting in place. I can tell you that the only reason why this has worked for our department for many times, and especially on those particular fires, garden apartments, townhouses, those kind of fires, is because the guys train on it. They literally go out and train on it. They understand what everybody's role is when we roll up on this. The driver does this, the officer does this, the back step guy does that, the backup man does this. And they literally drill and drill and drill on it until time happens, and then everybody knows their role, everybody knows where they have to be, and they make it happen. I don't think that by using the deck gun, you're any less aggressive. I think you're actually more aggressive by saying, look, man, these guys trained on this to the regular. At the end of the day, our job is to stop fires and get people out, right? And if we can look at this fire and say, wow, we stopped a rocking fire, we rescued this many people, and we did it in two different ways. We used the deck gun and we put guys on the floor. That's a home run in my book. It's a home run.
So, question about a deck gun. I think that there are people on this, maybe some on this panel that have been around long enough. So, ever since I was 5, this is all I ever wanted to do. And my father was a firefighter, so I spent a lot of time watching him. What's old is new. What's new is old. We used blitz attacks. You know, this whole transitional idea and all these other great terms and things that are put to, new inventions, they're not new. I can't, many a day, and in the city of Milwaukee, I also agree, I consider fairly aggressive. But many a day, stretching in a gangway, you would give the nozzleman would give a quick biff in the basement windows before we would make the steps. Why? Because you can't make the steps if you don't give it a good shot. So all of these things, we did them. There's only, since the day of Ben Franklin, what did we do? You put water on fire, you cool the BTUs, fire goes out. And we've gotten in a society, I think, right now that there are people that, because they want to make money off of, they come up with these great ideas. But the reality is, they're the same ideas. So using a deck gun, if it's used properly, you look and you say, how does a tower ladder in New York City, where do you see them a lot? They're sitting on a curb. They're on a sidewalk. Well, are they cowards? No, they're using smart thinking. They can drop the 75, with a tower ladder, you can drop the 75 feet to the rear wall of a taxpayer and darken everything down so you can go in and mop things up. So, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with using a deck gun, as long as you train on it, you drill on it, and you don't dump your first 500 gallons on the side of the wall because you can't find the window.
Yeah, I think, not to answer that question, but so when I was assigned to the training academy, I was tasked with qualifying guys on engine company operations. That was one of the things that I tested guys on, was I had them flow multiple lines with a deck gun. Reason being is, you learn gating and things like that. If you look at all the new building construction, and you look at these conflagrations we're having with these mid-rises and these high-rises that are built out of all stick and wood, I mean, what are you going to be flowing? You're going to be flowing big lines, you're going to be flowing deck guns. So it needs to be trained on more. It needs to be, a tactic that's brought back. And it needs to be something that we focus on, that our people are able to do efficiently, as much as stretching an 1 3/4 line, because take a drive around the city of New Haven, that's all you're going to see. When those buildings get going, guess what? You're not going in. You're hitting it with deck guns.
All right, so to Timmy's point, Timmy's got the question. I was there. We did knock down quite a bit of fire with a deck gun prior to advancing a line into the fire room and putting the fire out. It did save the building. The building's rebuilt. It's fine. Everybody's living in it, and we're off to the races, right? I see Kyle Krupa here. Kyle and I have had a long conversation. City of New Haven used to run deck guns on the cabs of the ladder companies. Lemonster, I think, does, right, Dan? Still does. Their truck companies all have deck guns mounted on them, not on the aerial, like a deck gun mounted on the apparatus fixed. Truck's always in front of the building, right? So that's one way you could do it. The other thing is we've been hammering this low staffing issue. Guys, if you're a one-line fire department, which the vast majority of departments are a single-line, inch 3/4 fire department, that's what's going to put the fire out, then being able to blitz it with a deck gun in order to get your inch 3/4 in place and be that aggressive one-line fire department, that's how you're going to succeed.
Chief, I want to hop on that real quick. Just my own take on this question, because I love it. I come from an area that's very large square footage homes, single-family homes, very large square footage, typical setbacks, right? So you're talking long driveways, limited water supply, right? So you're talking about the biggest bang for your buck on arrival with a short-staffed company, right? So I look at this room and I think there's probably a lot of areas right outside of this area where we're talking large square footage, single-family home, probably newer construction. You're seeing a lot of lightweight construction. So you're having a lot of fire advancement on arrival. You're having a lot of fire showing on arrival that if you punch it in the mouth quickly, we can make it dead, right? I love what RJ was saying about charging that, letting the chauffeur make that hit while the line's being stretched and establishing water. Super huge and super important, right? We got all caught up years ago in the fire service with these blitz fires, these rams, right? We run them on our sideboard, right? Big water, 2.5. Instead of allowing our guys, because we're short staffing with 1 or 2 guys on the line, to 2.5. We'll put it on a monitor, you can drop it on the lawn, and now we can affect change on the fire ground with an exposure building or heavy involvement. So we all bought into that hype, but we fell out of love with the deck on top of the engine, that one-man mounted monitor, know your reach, know your gallonage, know how much water you can go through. And at a 500 or a 750 in your tank, know what kind of impact you can make. I think we can make tremendous impact when it's done correctly.
And that's huge, because I saw a photo the other day, and, this place is off to the races. It was like a 3-story brick. I think it was somewhere in PA. But the deck gun's flowing, and it's falling apart 6 feet after the apparatus. I don't even think it made the fire building.
Right.
So it's just, you've got to know what you're using, what your tips are, and are we being effective? Because it doesn't matter whether it's a hand line, a deck gun, a ladder pipe. If we're not hitting the fire, then we are not doing any good at all.
How do we save people?
It's
Put
coming
the
from
fire
a
out.
truck guy.
You save people by putting the fire out.
I think we set ourselves up to fail with our chauffeurs. Because what's the first thing that you tell a chauffeur when you're pulling up to a fire building? You pull past the fire building to what? Leave room for the truck. Well, I know, it's honestly, but, so we buy tower ladders, we buy ladder trucks, we have it, but we teach our engine chauffeurs to pull past the fire building to leave room for the truck, like almost like a block if they need it, because we've all heard it or said it, we have plenty of hose. We can stretch forever, we got plenty of hose. So we get our chauffeurs in the mindset that they're gonna drive up and they're gonna see the building on fire. I gotta leave room for the truck, I gotta leave room for the truck, and they drive past the fire building. So now, how are we doing? So do we augment our training to be like, hey, we have to make an audible here, nope, stop here, pivot out a little bit, get the deck gun in place, we're gonna blast it, the truck can work around us? Or is that officer gonna be like, oh, I just gotta get off the truck and do my size up?
How many times do we bury the weakest guy in the driver's seat instead of putting him on the back?
That's me.
Right? That's just a true conversation. Weakest guy in a 4-man company, he's driving the thing.
Not on the truck.
All right, not on the truck. No, the truck guy.
God forbid,
Hey,
yes.
that guy's got to think. Hey, listen. All right, listen, I'm going to try it without the mic this time because of the feedback. It's
not bad.
But it is about training. It's about training because, if you have that ball valve up on the top, he charges it. If you know what that tip, what tip is on there? Seriously, what tip is on your deck gun right now? Is it a 1-inch tip? Yeah, inch and a 16th, inch and a quarter, inch and an eighth. Know what it flows. Give it a 30-second dash. You got a 500-gallon tank. You're flowing 260 gallons a minute. You've hit it for 30 seconds. You still got a whole lot of water left. So know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, everyone acts like, well, we've done it. You know what? Just do it. I'm driving today. Hey, if I do this, it means more pressure. I do that, it means less. That's ridiculous. You should know what you're doing. You should know how your rig works. You should know how much gallons you have, how long you can flow that thing. You should know how long you can flow your first line off. You should be able to pull a 2.5 off and hit it in the mouth. If it's off plane, if you're using your deck gun on a garage fire, I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen a lot of people washing garage floors with their deck gun. It doesn't hit where the fire is. If you're going to use your deck gun and it's not on the second floor, you're probably washing floors.
But that's huge too. Like a lot of people, like you're pulling up with 500, 750 gallons now. Guys think that this water is going to be gone in no time. It's like, I don't care what's on fire in that building. You're not going to run out in the next couple minutes while I stretch this line, get a hydrant.
Hopefully somebody else shows up.
And you guys are getting there. Yeah, like, I mean, with us, like, we get our own hydrant, so.
Great point, because here's the thing, right? When you flow an 1 3/4 hand line of a smooth
This is ridiculous.
How many gallons a minute? And this is a quiz. I'm not putting people on the spot. But how many gallons a minute do you get out of an 1 3/4 smooth bore nozzle? You get about a 160. 160 gallons a minute. If you're riding a 500-gallon engine, right? Even if you're not good at math, you're going to get almost 3 minutes out of that, right?
But again, you should be hitting fire instead of flowing water into smoke.
My point.
That's 3 minutes of continuously
Continued,
flowing
yes.
water, which
100%.
doesn't happen.
100%. You're in there training seconds. But you think about that, guys, on a lot of your first two work, if it's a room and contents, 2 room and contents, when you think about that much water, you could put out a whole second story of a home. Right?
Jeremy, let me ask. I want to ask a question real quick. Is there anybody in this room, and you don't have to feel embarrassed or not, but is there anybody in this room who has actually gone out with their crew, pulled a line, charged it, and flew water and used the stopwatch to see how much water you can flow?
No. Never done it.
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you, and that goes back to my original statement. It's a training issue. And honestly, that's our fault as all company officers. It's a training issue. We literally do that on a regular. And actually, that's our driver's test. When I got cut loose to drive a wagon, is this being recorded?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Don't mention any names. Don't worry, we'll just beep the whole thing out. Don't worry.
When I got cut loose to can we put it on pause?
RJ, hold up.
Hey, Sebi, cut this out
Yeah,
when you
Sebi.
listen to this. All right.
Hey, RJ to Sebi, cut this out. So, when I got cut loose to drive a wagon, that was part of, wagon is where I come from. We call it an engine company, we call it a wagon. That was part of our driver's test. All right, so part of the driver's test was you had a crew stretch a line. You had to charge the line, they had to flow water. And the test was they try to make you run out of water. And you literally have to make sure you have your lines charged, and they'll try to make you charge other lines, and they're going to continuously flow the water till you can get your hydrant hooked up and get your water supply established and all that. So they will literally try to make you run out of water. I think that if you don't train that way, if you don't train to make sure that you know how long you have before you run out of water, you're just going to be operating willy-nilly all the time. So if you don't, and I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but if you've never trained that way, you should train that way to understand how much time you have. Like everybody up here said, you have more time than you think, right? And honestly, I think, and not to take anybody down a rabbit hole, but we can go down that whole space about operating the line and keeping it open and closing it. And that's another fault of us as instructors in academies, where we teach people to go in, open up a line, shut it down, open up a line, shut it down, open up a line, shut it down. Whereas we don't put the fire out because we got more guys that need to get nozzle time, right? But I think that when you actually train that way, and you train and you pull out your iPhone or whatever kind of phone you have, and you actually operate the stopwatch and see what you can do and how long you can flow on your stopwatch, and on top of that, watch your driver to see how much stuff he can get done in that little bit of time, you'd be really surprised. And I think that's, yeah.
You talk a lot about training. If you make your guys stretch on smells and bells, they want a trick, bullshit call, stretch once,
100%. So I have a rule. If it's 2-in-1, so anything that requires 2 engines in the truck, anything that's 2-in-1 or more, my driver's hooking up to the plug and my crew's stretching. And the reason being is because it just creates one of those things where, as a boss, I now can teach them in a non-threatening environment, but they also can understand my expectations on the bullshit runs. And then they get into a system of, now when we run a real one, I don't have to tell them what to do, right? They've practiced this so many times on the smaller ones, they know what to do. In fact, it's my job to make sure I want to tell them something different faster than they can do what they know I want. Does that make sense? So put it this way. For example, we roll up on a single-family house, 2-story single-family house. I got fire showing on the 2nd floor, right? I'm going to get off the rig. I know that my backstep guys were able to calculate this distance, know what kind of line that I want, and where to have that line without me telling them. Now, I come off the rig, I do my 360, and I see something that strikes me. I have to make sure that I can get back to the front to let these guys know I want to do something different faster than they can have in place what I know them to have in place. Does that make sense to everybody? So that only comes from training. And as a guy who has a big, big football background, I love football, I live football, I grew up playing football, I played semi-pro football. That comes from literally walking out your plays, right? If you walk out plays with people, right? Monday through Thursday, if you guys ever played football, Monday through Thursday, those are practice runs, right? Those are the times when you got to change up the play, you got to perfect it, kind of make sure, see how things laid out, who's going to go where, who's going to do what. Friday, we were doing the walkthrough, Saturday's the game, right? So in the fire service, I literally teach that same concept with my guys, right? When we go out and train, that's the Monday through Thursday. We're walking the play out. We're seeing it. We're looking at it. We're seeing who's going where, who's going to do what, right? And then we literally implement it. So when the time comes, everybody knows their place, everybody knows their role, and everybody is at the spot. And I don't have to tell them anything. But that comes from us training that way so that when we hit the fire ground, it just naturally goes in place and everybody knows where they need to be and what they need to do.
I forgot to bring tickets. But if you guys want to fight me, I'm going to be outside. I was on the UL panel. I was lucky to be on the UL panel. And so I know it happened in the lab and things. What is it? You're not riding home with me. Oh, no, it's fine. I'll get up. I'll take the ambulance to the hospital. It's fine. But in all of those experiments, I know it was in a lab. Everyone's going to say that. There was actually furnished, framed houses that were burnt with the exact same things in it. 3 rooms of fire. The most amount of water that was used on every single one of those fires was no more than 260 gallons. No more. And that included hydraulic ventilation. You can put that fire out. Convince the chief to let you put the fire out. You can do it. I love you. You can do it.
One of the best lines I ever heard from a lieutenant, my first lieutenant, we went to a job in a project. It was a all brick project room. And the first new company was operating the line for a while, and he literally said, "You've officially done more water damage than fire damage. Bro, shut that thing off." It's true.
Anybody have any questions from the audience for the panel?
Fighting outside.
Anybody want to fight Ron outside? We got a taker here, Ron.
Both of you at the same time. Both of you at the same time. You always let's get out there. Hey, you know what? If I don't get out there in time, get started without me.
What's that?
All down, practice
Yeah.
that now.
Yeah, practice.
Break your hip.
Jeremy, you got anything else?
I do have something else. I have beers for some of the panelists. I also want to say this too, right? I think what's really important about tonight is the fact that you guys are here. I think when you get an opportunity to talk about the job, I mean, that's what I do with the podcast, Rob does it with the podcast. We get to talk about the job.
Bro, you are like the Guy Fieri of the fire service. You are.
Thank
like
you.
the off-ramp to
Thank you, Jay
Tillertown.
Erban.
No, I'm serious.
We've
Like you
discussed
are.
this.
Like
Me
you
and
are
Jay have
bringing.
discussed this at length.
Right. You are. You are bringing good stuff. Right.
Hey,
out
everybody,
there,
it's
right?
Jeremy. Welcome to Engines, Ladder Trucks, and
Right, yeah,
Rescue
exactly.
Squads.
Firehouses, conferences, and and trade shows, you know? It is. But I tell you, you put diners, drive-ins, and dives on the firehouse, nobody turns it off, right?
No, you're absolutely.
You do a great thing.
I love it.
Ron, give him the laugh. Come on.
I do want to finish up with this, right? So a couple of these guys have been on the podcast. I've been to Pete's shop numerous times. I've gotten to know the staff here. I've gotten to staff the people that are preserving what's really important to all of us. I mean, I take great value in my helmet that I wear for the last almost 30 years now. I take great pride in that. And to be honest with you, before National Fire Radio 6 years ago, I didn't know you could restore a leather helmet. I really didn't. I didn't know that was a thing. And I've gotten brought into this culture. I absolutely love it. What I challenge you all tonight, the fact that you guys spent a few hours here today matters. Go home and take this conversation back to your firehouse and invigorate the people that are in front of you that are keeping you down. Like, don't ever sacrifice your own values for the piece of shit in your firehouse that thinks it's not worth anything. We all have them. Every single firehouse. The best firehouse in the country has one guy, two guys that are the naysayers. They don't promote them. They don't push you forward. They compare. They see that you're disinterested. It's fine. It's life. The firehouse represents life. So we're not going to have this fire company of 4 guys or 6 guys or 100 guys that are going to promote all the good stuff and nothing back. So don't get dismayed by that. And don't let those people sway your opinion about the fire service. Don't not want to be yourself. Be yourself in the firehouse, fall in love with the fire service. It's the greatest fucking thing ever. And the fact that you guys are here today means the world. It means you're going to take what you heard today from really great people in the fire service that love it. These guys have been in the fire service more than a couple of years. And they love it more today than ever. They're willing to sit, well, we strong-armed a couple of them, but most of them are willing to sit up here. I got strong-armed. It matters. I challenge you all to go home and stay in love with the job. And then make somebody else fall in love with it too. And if you're the only guy in your firehouse that cares, that's good. It's infectious. Don't sacrifice your values for people that don't believe in the same values. You're better than them. Be better than them. And I challenge you that, man. And tonight, when this is all done and over with, and the camera goes off, microphones get put down, we're having a few more beers before everybody goes home, have a conversation. Hold these guys aside. Have a conversation. Tell them who you are. What? Or fight. I mean, Ron scraps. He'll scrap. He's drinking IPAs, but he'll scrap.
It's called a family photo for a reason.
But I mean that. I mean that, and I am super passionate about it. I am grateful for all the relationships that I've been able to form. I am friends. I mean, I met Paul Conway tonight. Met the chief from Greenwich tonight. But other than that, I've gotten to know these guys. Most of these guys have been on the they've all been on the podcast except for you two. So we have to get you on. So for me, it's a selfish endeavor, man. I freaking love it. When you surround yourself with really good people, you become better as a person. I'm better today than I was 6 years ago when I started National Fire Radio because I get to hang out with the coolest freaking people in the industry. I challenge you to do the same, and anybody can do it. So stay in love with the job, push the job forward, go after your firehouse, kick those assholes in the ass, and keep doing what you do, and keep showing up to events like this because it matters. Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to add on to that for a minute. You know, when we talked at the beginning, we opened this with what the senior man is. And in my fire department, to stop that, the senior man at the kitchen table would always say he would be the, you know, he in our firehouses, the senior man is truly the informal leader. The officers they're in a different world. But the senior man would, if a guy was complaining, if he had today's the day I'm going to complain about something, they would literally say, you got 10 minutes. Get that off your chest, and then shut up. Because we're not going to let that attitude infect this company. So get it off, speak your piece, rant and rave, 10 minutes. Then zip it. Because if you don't, I'll zip it for you. And that was, you know, in the time that I worked, that was a genuine I will be Rob, and we'll be wrestling in the parking lot. So zip it, because you can't let that attitude destroy your company. And we were just discussing a minute ago, RJ and I, when you said, well, there's always that guy. You know what? I'd shove that guy off my company. Go somewhere else. Now, I had a job big enough that I could say, look, dude, you're not meant here. Leave. Get out, because I'm not having you here. And they would leave because they didn't like to train every day. They didn't like to do things at 3 o'clock in the morning. So you can control your destiny. You really can. And like they said, don't let that negative set in. Don't become a recliner firefighter. Be the person, as I think I know it's a gentleman from Chicago, and I can't think of it now, but be the person who you want showing up for your family. Because you owe that to the shoulders that you stand on, to the brothers and sisters of this fire service that were here long before us. You owe that to them. Be the firefighter that you are supposed to be. That's it.
Got something here from the audience real quick. Do you want to follow up these?
Oh, all right, Bob.
Your mom.
He knew
Sebby.
I was going to say something.
Pause. Sebby, pause the tape.
I just want to say something. I've been in the fire service.
That's right.
34 years.
That's right.
I've never been in a fire. Don't know what you guys are talking about, but I'm a wife of a firefighter. I'm a mother of a firefighter. Don't bring your job home. We are there to support you. We are there when things go bad for you. Don't bring it home. The other thing I want to say is that Robert started.
RJ.
Sorry.
Sebby.
Robert, your name is Robert. Robert started as an explorer. Amen. Someone gave him an opportunity. You have got to give other people opportunities. If you don't, none of these guys would be here if somebody hasn't given them an opportunity.
100%.
Do the same. Reach back, bring one with you. That's all. Thank you.
Robert.
Can we
don't cut
actually
that.
address the fact that my mom is actually the only one that got a standing ovation tonight? But what I want to say, though, before we close out the night, I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you guys. And my own tidbit, just because all of us are sitting in these chairs, none of us are any better than you guys sitting in those chairs. And one of the biggest things I want to tell you guys, and I didn't get a chance to say when Chief McCarthy was talking about it, I know that the struggle is that there's people that are making you guys study shit that's not worthwhile. I know that, but part of my job is to advocate for you guys and to fight those fights so that we can stop that. The fire service is struggling with us to be able to teach the stuff from the streets. There's people way above us sitting on this wall here that make the rules for us, and unfortunately we all do the best that we can to teach what we think people really need to know. And I know all these guys here and everybody's passionate about sharing the information that help everybody get the job done the right way, not what the book says, but the right way. The stuff that you need to know to survive the streets, the stuff that the book's really not talking. Everybody up here is a street fireman. I know them personally. But I want to say that our commitment, everybody up here, our commitment to everybody out there, even the people watching, is that we are going to continue to fight to make sure that we continue to teach people what they need to know to survive on the streets and not what the book says. We all know the book does not teach you what you need to know to survive on the streets. The people in the audience, the people watching the tape, the people sitting up here are the ones who are going to teach you what you need to know. So my point is to that is when we leave here today, I want you to know that everybody up here is fighting the fight for everybody in the American Fire Service. We're not just up here speaking stuff. We're just actually, we live by it. So I want to thank everybody for coming out, listening to what I had to say, as well as these guys who are all my friends up here. And I just want to leave it with my thought saying to you guys that we are going to continue to do right by the fire service and fight to make sure that we can continue to give the American Fire Service what it deserves. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for this evening and this roundtable. And sorry, Chief.
No, go ahead. I just got to ask to hold the microphone. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was just wrapping up, so that's, Jeremy, take us out.
Last words, Chief. Go.
I gotta go last.
Pete's gotta be at the end because he's gonna do some long,
Pete?
drawn out.
All right.
Yeah,
So
Ragtop helmets.
So, yeah, Robin. So I'll say this, Rob and Jeremy, you guys brought up the point at the very beginning that we got to keep traditions alive. I think going back to the beginning and keeping things simple is the way to go. Overcomplication is what's killing the fire service. Go back to the basics. Go back to what you know, and I guarantee we'll be all right.
You're up, Jay.
Thank you, all of you. Peter, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you all. Don't spend a lot of time learning the tricks of the trade. Just learn the trade.
You said that on my podcast. It is
The best advice I have.
Tricks in the trade are great. Learn the fucking trade.
Just learn the
before you
trade.
learn a trick.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Think inside the box.
Love that. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Ron?
No. Keep it short. No, I was just kidding about the fight. I won't fight. I'm kidding. I love you all. I love you guys. I love these guys. I love the ability to do this. I've been blessed beyond any measure. I know, and it wasn't luck. I mean, I worked every fucking. I'm sorry for the kids. Every second. There's a little baby. Baby cusses. It's my fault.
Training second.
But I do love you guys. I love the fire service. I've spent my whole entire life loving the fire service. I put my first fire out when I was 7, and I'm not going to stop until I'm dead. Love you. Training second. Fantastic.
You're up, Dan.
First, thanks to Pete for doing all this. I mean, the stuff that he puts on.
Yay, Pete.
Thank you to the staff of Ragtop, unbelievable. I mean, they set everything up in here. All the tables, got us whatever we needed, duct tape, don't ask why, but whatever we needed. So thank you to the staff, thanks to the bartenders, thanks to the pizza guys, all of you guys, thank you for coming out. Like, you guys are what makes this. If no one showed up, it'd be really weird if we were up here talking. So, we still do it. But thank you guys. Keep doing the right thing. Keep training. Reach out. If you have a question or you want to know something, reach out to any single one of us. I get questions on Instagram all the time. And guess what? I don't know everything. I reach out. I'll reach out to one of these people. Hey, have you ever run into this? What's the answer to this? I'll get you the answer. One of us will get you the answer. So just keep doing the right thing. And just remember, like my good friend TK said, it's okay to love the job.
All right, last words. I got 2 things, then we're going to raffle off the N5A. So somebody's going to walk away with an N5A tonight. Thank you to everybody here on the panel. Thank you to National Fire Radio. I call Jeremy and I say, hey, I've got this idea, and he says, all right, I'm in. And he doesn't even question. He just says, how can I support you? He wishes he's probably going to block my number in his phone at some point soon. But
Truth.
The only thing I can say to you guys is to just be yourself. I live life by the seat of my pants. Where's Jill? Jill's in the back there. Jill, God bless Jill. So I come up with ideas, and my staff and Jill, they go with it. And I actually had somebody tell me I should not live life the way that I do and come up with these ideas and make things run. And, I decided I wanted to go out and build a structural firefighting glove, and I did. And I had a lot of people tell me not to, but I did anyways. And without my staff, without Jill, without Jill's husband, that probably talks her off the ledge every day, Tyler, thank you.
That guy's awesome. I bought him a couple beers.
Yeah. Without my staff, without Joe, Dan, Chelsea, Jordan, Joy, Dominique, Jack, Johnny, Sam, Rob VC's a Make-A-Wish project. Rob, your mom talked about opportunities, and I did a Make-A-Wish opportunity, and worked out really well. Worked out really well. But no, without my staff, there's no way I'd be sitting here today. So thank you to you guys. I'm just the idea guy. The staff is actually who gets it done. So they deserve more credit, and I love you guys dearly. Tyler, I'm not kidding about. I know how much you talk her off the ledge, and I really do appreciate that. Please keep doing that. I'll pay you on the side. So that's all I have. And the last thing is, guys, this is the first year we did this. I appreciate the guys that have stuck here throughout the entire thing. We're trying to figure out timings. We're trying to figure out when to do things and when not to do things. Next year is going to be fantastic. Captain Tim Papp over there, very good friend of mine, and he's going to be here next year. Because the start time will be 4:00. We'll confirm the start time before in our initial conversation before we go. No, we look forward to next year, and thank you guys for putting up with us for the timings and figuring these things out. So, guys, thank you very much for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next year.
You sure?
That's it. We're good, man.